Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel F Geeks Diaries. Today, I am going to be oversimplifying the concepts of aerodynamics for you all. Now this video is not only for all the F Geeks but also helpful for those who are in 11th, 12th or pursuing their BHC and finding some concepts of aerodynamics difficult. Don't worry, I am here to teach you all concepts of aerodynamics in a very simple manner. Without further ado, let's begin. First and foremost, let's divide aerodynamics into three different parts. Number 1, the aerodynamic force. Number 2, the Bernoulli's principle. Number 3, the angle of attack and the pitch. You can simply understand. To understand aerodynamics, let's take simple example. Let's consider a scenario of a bird flying. Now, imagine what kind of forces are involved which make the bird fly in the air. So when you think about it, you get some kind of clarity about what aerodynamics is. I'm not going to go into proper technical definitions because I know you can easily find the technical definitions on the web, and I know you're watching it for as a last minute prep for your exam, so I wouldn't want to go into the technical aspects. My goal is to make you understand the concept. So that is why I'm just explaining you with some examples. As I've mentioned the example of bird earlier, now let's take an example of aircraft. Now imagine this marker as an aircraft, the cockpit, the front part of the aircraft, and this being the tail, and the sides, imagine that they have wings towards the sides. Okay, assume marker as something like this. And the first aerodynamic force which we are going to talk about is nothing but lift. Lift is that force which will propel the aircraft to go upwards. The wings here are the primary lift generating components of aircraft. The second type of force which I'm going to talk about is weight. Weight acts opposite direction of the lift. If lift propels object upwards, then weight pulls it downwards. Weight also, as we have studied in our childhood, is nothing but mass into gravitational force. So if mass stays the same, but weight is something which varies according to the gravitational force. In the aspect of aerodynamics, weight plays an important role because for an aircraft to take off, as I mentioned earlier, the lift has to be more than that of weight, and similarly for landing, the weight has to be more than that of lift. And not only that, during takeoff and landing, other two forces also take place, which is nothing but thrust and drag, which we are going to talk about now. Now, thrust is nothing but an aerodynamic force which propels the aircraft forward, and drag is nothing but opposite of thrust. It's the resistance, or you can say the frictional force, which pulls the aircraft backwards and make it slower. So yeah, thrust would give the aircraft speed, whereas drag would make it slower. Now, considering all four forces, I am going to explain the process of takeoff and landing once again in a clear manner. So during takeoff, the aerodynamic forces which are required for the aircraft to fly higher is that number 1 is lift, which has to be greater than weight, and number 2 is thrust. The thrust the forward force should overcome that of drag. That means it has to be of greater magnitude than that of drag. So based on this thrust and drag, the different types of wings are also designed to make it aerodynamically stable. Those wings, as I mentioned earlier, I have put it up in my shorts. So if you want, you can go through them. Anyways, back to the topic. Regarding landing, when the aircraft is descending at a steady speed and then it has to land properly, then the aerodynamic forces which are involved are nothing but this one weight as well as drag. Now the weight should be more than that of lift for landing, opposite to that of takeoff situation, and the drag should also be than that of weight. Now that we have learned aerodynamic forces, before moving on to the next two topics, I am going to talk about an aerodynamic condition. That one condition which most pilots, especially student pilots, get scared of. That is nothing but stall. Stall is an aerodynamic condition where the aircraft comes to a stop and it stops flying. It stops mid-air, and that causes the aircraft to just fall down. It's scary, isn't it? But do not worry, because pilots are trained to handle this kind of situations. In fact, stall is a common aerodynamic condition which occurs when the forces are not balanced. So a pilot has to maintain a good balance of these forces to avoid this kind of condition and avoid a devastating crash. Now you must be wondering how exactly pilots do this. So we are going to jump to our next concept of aerodynamics, which is nothing but angle of attack and pitch. To understand angle of attack better, let's continue with the example of this marker. Now, first we need to understand what is chord line axis. The line, the imaginary axis which runs from the nose to the tip. The line which runs from here, that is called chord line axis. Now, angle of attack is nothing but the angle which the chord line axis makes with the airflow. So that particular angle is called angle of attack, and it's a very important parameter while taking off. When a flight has to take off, its angle of attack should be more. Then only the aerodynamic forces such as lift and thrust are achieved. Similarly, for landing, we consider another axis called lateral axis. It runs from one wingtip to another. It is the horizontal line, the imaginary horizontal line. So, the angle which is made on the imaginary axis and the airflow, that is called pitch. Or pitch can also be defined in this manner. It's the up and down movement of an aircraft, and this up and down movement can be controlled with the primary controlling unit used in the cockpit, which is nothing but joystick or yoke. When the pilots pull the joystick or yoke backwards or forward, they can control the up and down movement of the flight. Like how the angle of attack is used for takeoff, pitch is used during landing. It's a crucial factor during landing because it determines the aerodynamic forces, drag as well as weight of the aircraft while landing. Now pitch should be controlled in a very calculative manner during landing because if pitch is too up, that means the nose is too up, and if the nose is too up, it leads to tail strike. Tail strike is nothing but the tail getting damaged by touching the ground and causing fire. And if pitch is too low, that means the nose is too low, which causes a crash landing. Talking about Bernoulli's principle, I would say that Bernoulli's principle is an important part of the fluid mechanics. Very often we think fluid means liquids like water and other things. So we might have this misconception. We often have this misconception. But however, fluids include both liquids as well as gases. That is why Bernoulli's principle plays a role in aerodynamics. Now, to define it in a very simple way, I could say that Bernoulli's principle is a condition where if the speed of the aircraft rises, then the pressure of the aircraft. This was very vague explanation, wasn't it? So that's why I'm going to make a detailed video about Bernoulli's principle. So you can click that video and watch. I'm going to put the link in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. To learn more about aviation vocabulary or to know about aviation case studies, which include aviation mishaps as well as aviation miracles, you can subscribe to my channel.